Hey guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and this is the first countdown video. And before I start this, I'm wearing this awesome and amazing black leather jacket from Alistair from Fury. So Alistair, thank you very much, dude. You're just amazing. And Fury's just awesome in every way. So yeah, this is going to be my video on the top 5 Death albums. Since I've reviewed all of their albums, like in separate videos, obviously, let's just jump right into it. So let's just get on with the list and let's not waste any more time. So yeah, number 5 is Scream Bloody Gore. Scream Bloody Gore was basically the album that I was really pleased by. It was just considered as the first true death metal album ever made, ever to be released, etc. So yeah, this album was still obviously by loads of people considered as a classic, and it really is a classic. It really does show how aggressive this album really is, and there are just a lot of really good songs on the album, and for the most part, Chuck Schuldiner vocals on here are just really beastly, with really aggressive vocals, and the music itself is just intensely fast, and there are a lot of riffs on the album that sounded a bit like kind of thrashy, but still amazing. And it's just like Eaten Back to Life by Cannibal Corpse, some thrashy riffs on the death metal side with very harsh drumming and aggressive vocals, and Death at the most part is quite similar to that. So this is definitely one of the most impressive debut albums that you just need to check out if you love metal, of course, in general. And this was just basically one of these albums that are just so solid and really unique for its whole legacy. So yeah, Scream Bloody Gore is just another one of these albums that I really do enjoy a lot. So yeah. Number 4 is Leprosy. Leprosy is considered the most important death metal album of all time, and this is basically, for me, the album that I just liked a little bit more than Scream Bloody Gore. I mean, the production went high up. I love the sound on the instruments, the fully amazing sound on the distortion from the guitars, and at some point Chuck's vocals are still really aggressive. The drumming is absolutely amazing, and on that point of view, I think Death at this point really went onto a much more a heavy creative side than making the heavy thrash riffs with some death scream vocals from Scream Bloody Gore. I think the creative went much more improved with this album, and this is basically one of these albums that really means something to me because of its whole experience. The creativity went much more improvised and just really much more creative as it goes along. So yeah, loads of brilliant songs on here. Leprosy, Pull the Plug, Left to Die, Choke on It, and just everything, the brilliant guitar riffs and solos, the fast intense drumming, still the harsh vocals from Chuck Schuldiner is still going really strong. So yeah, Leprosy is another really good masterpiece. Number 3, we have Individual Thought Patterns. Now this was when Death got into a much more technical side of their death metal sound. Human basically started it all, and Human was just basically the first album from Death to really feature that really technical / progressive type of sound, and it's still continuing with this album. And you know, the music on here just got a lot more better as it goes along. The lyrics went much more mature as things go along, and it's just definitely another really cool album from this band, and it's definitely one of Death's best, in my honest opinion. And Chuck's vocals at the point of view on this album really went gone a lot more different. He kind of gone into a bit of a heavier, more than a harsher side on the vocals, and the production is still really fantastic. So yeah, Individual Thought Patterns was for me an interesting album than Human, to be honest. Although Human is still really good, and I still think I really enjoyed this album just basically a little bit more than Human. That's just my honest opinion. So yeah, there are loads of really good songs on here that are really just fast-paced and progressive, but I love these song structures and just technical when you listen to a lot of these songs in the album. So yeah, let's move on to the next album. Number 2! This way or this way? I really don't know. Number 2 is Symbolic. Now, a lot of people really consider this album as Death's best album, and I absolutely idolized this album. This was so close for me to place this album at the number 1 peak. But yeah, so Symbolic went high, the production went high, the creativity went high. Chuck's material are still really much more impressive, and he's really such a good guitarist that he'll just basically kick your ass. I mean, it was basically the creation of his style of music that really impressed me, and he's just definitely one of my favourite metal singer-songwriters of all time, in the very top spot, besides Dimebag Darrell and you know, Kirk Hammett and all sorts of other awesome stuff. But yeah, really much more technical with this one, and pretty much on that point of view, the album really got a little bit more progressive than technical all around. Loads of amazing songs like you know, Crystal Mountain and Symbolic, and just other really unique solid songs on here. And I really just love the sound, the instruments, the beautiful sound on the drums, and the really cool sound, fully distorted heaviness on the guitars, and you know, Chuck's vocals really went more different. You know, he was being from a really low death metal vocalist into like a much more of like a really heavier thrashy type of vocalist on this album. And you know, I always loved every single thing on the album. It's just perfection from start to finish. So yeah, Symbolic was definitely the biggest blast of them all from loads of people than any other Death album ever created. So let's move on to the last album, the numero uno. Number 1 is Death's final album, The Sound of Perseverance. The Sound of Perseverance was my first album that I remember listening to from this band. I really got blown away by it. And it's just amazing all around from start to finish. This album really showed the most progressive, than the less technical and the less original death metal side. This is more of like a much more progressive death metal album, and this was just the album that I can say it's just phenomenal. I was really speechless whilst I was just really blown away by the album. It's just so good. Chuck's vocal style went a lot more higher into like similar to a Danny Filth type of vocal style. The creation on the music and the lyricism are absolutely phenomenal. The drums are just freaking perfect from start to finish, and I just really loved a lot of these song structures that just really simply change, like from like being fast paced, then moved into a much more interesting side, and they've really moved on away from technical death metal, and the progressiveness on the album's really good. Loads of amazing songs on here, like you've got Scavenger of Human Sorrow, Story to Tell, and their really smooth, beautiful one, Voice of the Soul, and their cover Painkiller, originally done by Judas Priest, obviously. The cover was also really good, and it's just absolutely intense, progressive death metal from beginning to end. So I will just consider this, that there is nothing wrong with this album, there's no fillers behind it. This is definitely the one that I love the most from this band. So yeah, The Sound of Perseverance was the biggest masterpiece of them all, my honest opinion, than Symbolic. So yeah, so The Sound of Perseverance is my favourite death album in this list. So yeah, so that's basically it, guys. That's my top 5 death albums, and I know that Human and Spiritual Healing aren't on the list. They are really good albums, but I mainly picked the other 5 on this list. So there's no death album that's just wrong. They're just amazing from beginning to end. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and keep it metal.